Although China treats Taiwan as an integral part of China, but Taiwan has its own way. In Taiwan, there is democratic rights enjoyed by the people. There is more freedom of expression and speech. And that's why in the recent elections in Taiwan, the Taiwanese people chosen that leader which is against the viewpoint of Chinese ideology. And that's why China is always concerned with this Taiwanese rise in against China. Okay, and apart from that, this assertiveness of Chinese authority in Taiwan have its impact at the global level. And here, the US also try to give protection to the Taiwan as well because there is some sorts of agreement with the US. Okay, so on the one side, China try to integrate Taiwan, but on the another side, Taiwan do not wants to get into. Taiwan wants to remain autonomous, and that's why there is a conflict that always go on. And in the recent times, this assertiveness is increasing from the Chinese side. So here we will be understanding the basic scenario that is going on between China and the Taiwan relation. Okay, so basically we know the concept that China treats Taiwan as an integral part of China under one China policy. But Taiwan do enjoy certain autonomous rights, democracy, the freedom of speech and expression, some of the direct relation with other countries. Okay, and this viewpoint has been reflected in the recent election that occurred on January 13, where Lai Ching-te, who belonged to Democratic Progressive Party, okay, were elected for the third term from this party. So it have a major blow to China because this party remains against the Chinese viewpoints. Okay, but after this election, what happened that some of the country like Nauru, which is a small island nation, so they started shifting its relation from Taipei to Beijing. Taipei is basically the capital, the city of Taiwan. Okay, so the relation was shifted to Beijing. Why? You know that China have huge deep pockets in terms of promoting financial investment and infrastructure development, and from this deep pocket they gives huge money to these countries and try to get their influence within them. And that's why earlier Taiwan enjoyed good relations with 22 countries, but now there is just 11 countries that recognize Taiwan. Okay, it's all because of the deep pockets the China have, and Taiwan do not have that deep pockets. Okay, so when we talk about some of the status, the current scenario which is being developing in the China Taiwan ties. So first of all, Chinese assertiveness is also rising. Okay, and why the assertiveness is rising in the Chinese leadership? It's all because there is a 1992 consensus, and in this 1992 consensus, there is a clear cut mention that Taiwan is integral part of one China policy. But the earlier head of Taiwan, headed by Miss Shai, okay, didn't accepted this consensus. Okay, so that's why China tried to put more assertiveness on Taiwan, like the recent elections which occurred. So there was like firing of the planes, missiles in the nearby Taiwan Strait. Okay, to showcase the power of the China, all of that. But what we are seeing that even among the Taiwanese people, there is no such integration viewpoints with China. Okay, so there is a Taiwanization. That means people living in Taiwan, they are more happy to be like that rather than just having the closeness towards China. But to China will be like uh, silent on this matter? No, because rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and reunification of Taiwan is two very important and essential goals for the Chinese president. Okay, but here China is also concerned that this victory, the election victory, is a clear indication that the people in Taiwan, they are not in hurry for reunification, for integration. Okay, so that is the thing. So in Taiwan, we have the democracy, and because of this autonomy, independency, the Taiwanese people wants their autonomy, independency to be protected. And when we talk about first democratic elections in Taiwan occurred in 1996, since then the democracy is strengthened and regularized, and that's why people are more favoring democracy rather than the state control. But in China, there is more dominance of the state control. Okay, like here in Taiwan, there is multiple party, but in China there is single party, and from that single party, the premier gets elected. Okay, so the Beijing is uncomfortable definitely with the Taiwanese democracy, and as the democracy will be strengthened in Taiwan, the concern from the Chinese side will be more increasing, because there is a relationship now that if democracy is a strengthening, that means Taiwanese people will be not moving closer to China. They will try to remain autonomous, independent. So that is the biggest concern that China is having. So what's next, Mr. Lai and the party? Tenure will be going to be tougher because they have to tackle the Chinese viewpoint of assertiveness as well. Okay. However, there is a no clear deadline that when China is going to completely reunify Taiwan, because here there is the influence, or we can say that good relationship of US Taiwan. So there can be the like fear to China. Okay, so the situation is difficult, and let's say in the coming time how this leader is going to like develop it and maneuver based on the diplomatic challenges that they can face in the coming time. So that is the thing. Hope you understood. Now we are moving to the next article, and this article is very very important with the topic of a startup in India. Okay, so we have huge population in India. We know that about 140 crore population, and for 140 crore population there is a need to employment. Okay, and agriculture, you know that there is very big concerns related to agriculture sector. People do not want to get into agriculture, and also there is less remuneration. So there is a two option: either we can go to the services, we can go to the manufacturing. Okay, but since 1990s we were more focused on services but not on the manufacturing. So that's why our startup culture, our business culture was very weak. But now, with the government's policy steps, initiatives, the startup culture is increasing, and many new startups in different fields are coming. And this is highlighted in the recent report released by the government, that is the Department for Promotion of like internal trade. Okay, so we will be discussing this report and try to understand the overall dimension of a startup culture in India, the challenge and the weakness. We all will be understanding it. Okay, so this a state's startup ranking 2022 released by DPIIT, and it was launched in 2018. Okay, and it's an annual exercise where the states and UTs are evaluated based on their efforts, that how they are trying to promote startups in their state, and based on that parameter, if they are performing better, they will be given higher rank. Okay, so this judges the ecosystem which is conducive to a startup, and there is a seven reform area where the decision is based upon. We will be discussing that seven area dimension as well. But let's understand the key findings. First of all, total 33 states and UTs were ranked under five category. So the best performer is from Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala. Then top performer belong to Telangana, Arunachal Pradesh, and in terms of leaders, there is Andhra Pradesh, Assam, and aspiring leaders, there is Bihar and Haryana. And when we talk about emerging startup ecosystem, Chhattisgarh and Delhi is there. Okay, so these are the good and best performing states and UT. So when we talk about startups in India, so India has third largest startup ecosystem in the world. So that means whatever startups is getting registered all over the world. So India is the third in terms of rank, and you can quote the data like as of December 2023, there is more than 1.14 lakh startups which has been recognized by the government. So which has been recognized, but many startups are there, but they have not been recognized, but they are also contributing to the economy, they are also contributing to the employment. Okay, so the startup culture is very important to generate employment, to generate investment opportunity, all of that. And when we talk about the regulation of startups, so the DPIIT, which comes under Ministry of Commerce and Industry, they recognizes the business as a startups, and the Security and Exchange Board of India, they notify the rules for listing the startups. So kindly differentiate, because this can be the question for the prelims. So the SEBI notifies the rules for listing the startup, and the DPIIT, they recognize the business as a startup. So which business will be startup or not, it will be recognized by the DPIIT. Okay, so that is the thing. And when we talk about the benefits of startups in India, so there are lots of benefit. First of all, we see that every year there is high number of graduates, they comes out, freshers comes out, but they seek employment, but the employment is not visible. So if there is the culture of startups, many industry are getting promoted, then definitely the employment ratio will increase, so employment generation will be there, and there will be the stimulation of domestic investment. That means domestic investment will be promoted, and it will also reduce the import of foreign product or service. So import dependency will be reduced, because the products will be produced in our domestic territory. Okay, so it will promote self-reliance, atmanirbhar, and apart from that, it will also help in removing the poverty, the middle income trap. Okay, the income stagnation. So there are many more benefit. And when you talk about challenges, so challenges are also there. First of all, there is complex process of incorporating a company. So there are bureaucratic hurdles, nitty gritties that are associated, that disturb the like better way to register. Then there is a lack of funding and supportive infrastructure. Many startups do not get the funding, do not get the investors. Okay, so many startups definitely get registered, but they gets eliminated from the competition as well. Then there is also important thing, that the intellectual property rights. Let's say some products startup had created, but there may be the chances that their ideas, their technology may be copied. Okay, so that's why their intellectual property rights should be protected. But for that, IPR registration is there, but it also takes huge time as well as cost. So that's why many startups do not able to register their IPR for the product, and this can cause damage to their research work and all of that. So hope you understood this article, friends. And lastly, when we talk about the steps taken by the government, the Startup India Action Plan, credit guarantee scheme for startups, income tax exemption given for 3 years if a startup is being started. Then there is a Startup India Seed Fund scheme to provide funds for the startups so that initial funding crisis should be handled in a proper way, and the startup should have the incubation culture so that they can grow. Okay, so there are seven reform areas. Based on that, the ranking was developed, like institutional support. So government is providing the institutional support here by various schemes. Then there is fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. Yes, because without innovation and entrepreneurship, you cannot compete the existing company. So that's why innovation and entrepreneurship is needed. Then there is access to market so that their product should be sell through, transported. And when we talk about market, it can be the national market, international market. Okay, then there is incubation and mentorship support so that well experts analysts can give ideas, directions, directives. Then there is a funding support, capacity building of the enablers, and then there is a roadmap to the sustainable future. So these are the reform areas. Based on that, the ranking gets analyzed, the ranking gets created. So hope you understood all these articles in detail. And now we are ending our session. But before ending, we have the prelims question session. So please pause the video and try to solve the question and give the answer in the chat box. And if you are facing any issue, doubt, please free to ask in the comment box. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.